Hey, it's Martin Schneider, Vice President and Principal Analyst here at Constellation, covering CRM, sales automation, RevOps tech, all that good stuff.
And I'm Laurie Dignan, Editor-in-Chief of Constellation Insights, and we are co-hosts for Constellation Research TV, and we're on episode 93. Holy crap.
Yeah,
so we're here to talk about the latest news and trends in enterprise tech. After the news, I'll catch up with Laurie Wheeler. She's a CXO at MultiCare Health System, and we'll talk about Shop and her ServiceNow implementation.
And then to close out, I think Ray is going to be talking with Mohamad Ali with IBM to talk about how they're using Gen AI in their consulting business.
All righty, let's get to the news. Martin, kick us off.
Okay, slew of announcements around a lot of interesting tech companies and all kind of coming together around Gen AI, surprise, but also Agentic AI, even less of a surprise these days. Creatio, which has been kind of quietly building a really interesting mid-market and small enterprise CRM suite, has put out in what they're calling their energy release, a new AI command center, which really brings together their co-pilot capabilities, their new, I think they have a dozen out of the box agent, virtual AI virtual agents covering things like, sales, marketing, support, the whole gamut of CRM. Interesting though, instead of calling their agents, they're calling them skills, which is kind of interesting. Finally kind of breaking with the norm where everyone was calling everything co-pilots, everybody's calling everything agents. OpenPrize is also doing some interesting things around agentic AI, bringing that virtual AI agent capabilities into the middle office, really to connect all that revenue data and all those processes that RevOps leaders tend to do. A lot of kind of manual stuff that could pretty much be automated, especially when you have good data around the center where these rev tech companies are bringing all that data together to make it easier. Now just automating the process, really cool. They're calling that the AI agent factory. So that's an interesting one. Now, what's really interesting is, you're starting to see other companies like Microsoft really start to pull all this AI stuff together, right? You're seeing command centers, you're seeing factories, right? They've got the AI Foundry now on Azure, which is now bringing, the co-pilots, the predictive data capabilities, and now their new agent AI together so that, you can really have line of business and IT coming together and finding that centralized place, not just to create and roll out, but also measure and maintain what you're doing in AI to really kind of start to create auditability, monitoring, and all that kind of cool stuff. Not to be left out, SalesLoft did some interesting stuff calling theirs Command Center as well, which really brings together some of their AI, agent AI tools and their workflow. They've got new things called plays and other things that bring together the workflow to, again, kind of like with our OpenPrize, bring those revenue processes, those types of common elements that what salespeople do, where they usually need to pull data together from multiple systems, multiple sources in order to know the customer better, know who to respond to, who to reach out to, and when, making that more and more easier and putting that all in one place. So really seeing this kind of interesting trend kind of happening where, we're starting to not only get this centralization where before, I think especially in CRM, you were seeing like some features first rolled out where it was like, okay, here's predictive leads, and then here's a co-pilot on the side, and now here's an agent. Now we're really putting that together and kind of having those dashboards and those whole admin panels that we can actually kind of more strategically attack how we're going to start to roll our AI story out inside these applications. So pretty cool stuff. And I'm seeing some uniformity in the names, command center, factories, foundries, but also little wrinkles like skills versus agents, things like that. So a lot going on around the Gen AI front.
So basically, we launched this whole Gen AI, Agentic AI, and now we have to create more software to wrangle all these things we created and all the sprawl that's left in its wake.
No, exactly. I've been calling it kind of innovation fatigue when you look at it, how it comes out. This is a bit of a way of maybe curbing that and at least centralizing it and making, the creation and monitoring and maintenance a little bit easier, but it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I guess the themes I'm looking at is like back in February, I kind of looked at the Gen AI trickle down economics. And back then it was Nvidia just making all the money. Guess what's changed? Nothing. Nvidia's still making all the money. And I'm looking at this whole stack, and the disconnects here are everywhere. It's like Nvidia's raking in dough. They report earnings, and my guess is they'll rake in more dough. It just depends on whether it's enough to hit Wall Street's lofty expectations. But like you were talking about, Martin, all the value here and the business value has to come from the enterprise application stack, and I'm just not seeing it happen yet. So there's so much disconnect between the Gen AI foundational infrastructure type folks and the whole the software vendors, and then down to the enterprise customers. And yes, there's value there, but there was what you're talking about, innovation fatigue. There was a survey out by Slack, which was basically showing how end users kind of ramped up on Gen AI and then hit the wall. And I think the stat was like 32% of US workers are using Gen AI, which I think is interesting. That's basically the same percentage it was back in March.
Right.
And I think the reason for that is just cost. Like,
Yep.
you're not going to roll these out to everybody because you're paying an upcharge for it. And then B, I think the usefulness of this. Like, I just know I have such a co-pilot fatigue right now. It's great. All these things want to be helpful, but if I need you, I'll call out to you. I don't need you bugging me, which is kind of what I feel about Copilot.
Yeah.
Gemini to some degree. Like there's definitely a Gen AI fatigue that's kind of setting in. That I think
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, because like you said, I mean, it's like it's the notifications, it's like the things we already did. We started silencing everything on our phones and on our laptops and everything.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be the same thing with AI, right? But yeah, to your point, I mean, I think there's this weird thing where you said like there's a common denominator, and that's always in like the process and the community of what's going on. It gets so fragmented and broken as you move up and up and up, and then there's the enterprise vendors wanting to differentiate and things like that. So pricing models versus like what is the value, what are all these things, are really delaying who's actually going to start gaining from all this, and being multimodal, multi-model, this and that, and what tokens are being spent, which aren't, which don't need tokens. It is at the end of the day, the only people kind of winning are those that are getting down at that kind of compute layer. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. It'll see to see how it plays out.
But if this Gen AI value doesn't democratize pretty soon, we are going to hit a wall.
Yeah. Microsoft at Ignite this week is talking. They're giving a lot of like metadata around AI around their customers, and they're saying for the ones they've studied, they're seeing anywhere from like $3 to $10 return on investment for every dollar spent on AI. I don't know how they're calculating that necessarily. It's all kind of blanket, but we need more of that, right? And we need it to be more granular to really start to understand what the value proposition is and where. I mean, time is money, but it also isn't, and it's kind of a it's a dotted line sometimes. So when you really start to see business outcomes changing, that's what's going to be interesting, because I think most people are talking about kind of time savings, new headcount defrayment, things like that, and that is ROI. But I think when it's like, hey, how am I going to do better? And they had a couple examples that they were giving out around healthcare and pharma and things like that, where you are speeding time to market with drug research and other things like that. But really, when it comes down to what are the broad-based things of this is going to make my business better, and there's no doubt about it, then I think we're going to really start to see some things rolling.
I think it might develop like the cloud. Remember how the public cloud was like, hey, I'm saving money, and then everyone realized, hey, you're not saving anything. And then it became about, hey, you're more agile, you can focus on what you're doing because you shouldn't be running data centers, which eventually everybody came around to.
AI is a utility. It'll happen.
Yeah, so it kind of makes me wonder. But yeah, I do think, it's going to be interesting as we get through Ignite and then AWS reInvent.
Yep.
I do think 2025 is going to be, a hardcore focus on business value. And right now, I'm not sure Gen AI and Agentic AI is necessarily delivering. Well, Agentic hasn't even happened yet.
The data is the big issue, right?
Right.
Nobody has done the foundational work to put the data in a place that it can be useful, that it can drive business outcomes through AI, right? And I think that's going to be the reckoning in 2025.
Yeah, because right now, everything I'm hearing from enterprise software vendors, it's starting to sound a little Snoopy teacher to me. They talk and I just hear want. Like I kind of doze off, right? Like I get it's good stuff. But there is that, the rubber's got to hit the road at some point.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's it for the news this week. Stay tuned. I'll be interviewing Laurie Wheeler, and then Ray's going to talk to Mohamad Ali from IBM. Hi, I'm Larry Dignan from Constellation Insights, and we're here with Laurie Wheeler from MultiCare Health System. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So rumor has it you optimize and execute and stuff. So which is a little weird at CC. Can you just explain your title and kind of what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the Chief Operating Officer of our IST division at MultiCare Health System. And essentially it's running the business and operations of IT. It is turning that strategy into reality. It is process, it is finance, budgets, contracts, and it's really just making the things a reality and making sure, my big thing is the internal workings of IT, that we're a super well-oiled machine.
So how does that change your approach to AI and all those fancy buzzwords we hear about?
Well, a lot of these conversations, I love them. My big passion is around, again, how do you make these things a reality, right? And so really big on change management, and talked yesterday about, how do you find those champions in operations? So as we know, healthcare, we get a little nervous sometimes, implementing new technologies, because healthcare, that's not their jam. That's not their specialty. It's taking care of patients. And we have a ton of opportunity with the technology. So it's finding a way to digest it and make it easy for them to adopt, to love, to understand. And that's kind of how I have to approach everything.
So how do you find a champion?
I've worked in my organization a very long time, and so it's developing a lot of relationships with everyone. And we go out, we round, we meet with our hospital presidents, you meet with the chief nurses, and you just inherently find those folks, and they kind of find you too. And so you can just go, and through rounding, you're going to meet someone in an organization that you can just tell has that kind of passion around the technology while working in healthcare.
So what are some of the things you're hoping to optimize?
Next year, my big focus is really on our ServiceNow optimization. And so we have put in ServiceNow with regards to our service desk. It's our employee resource center backend. And so when it comes to having our search functionality, having our virtual agent, and really minimizing the calls to the service desk, of course. But right now, we don't have a lot of content. And so it's just not usable yet. And so again, back to making it super easy for our healthcare workers is really where I'm going to focus.
So is that going to sit on top of Epic or whatever you use?
No, it doesn't sit on top of Epic, but it's partnered with, we also implemented Workday last year. And so we did a full ERP replacement. And then ServiceNow is really our employee resource center. And so it really just partners and integrates from that perspective.
Okay. And so you moved to Workday HR and financials?
And supply chain.
Okay.
We did it all.
Did it all, okay.
It was quite the adventure. You needed change champions there.
Right.
For sure.
So the change management, how important is it, or how hard is it in healthcare?
I feel it's very challenging. Again, especially when it comes to technology, because, healthcare providers, right? Nurses, ancillary staff, their specialty is being at the bedside, right? And so when it comes to adopting technology, that's the last thing they want to think about. And so making sure you have really solid change management is super important. And especially when it comes to Epic and your medical record, you know, I super kudos to all the other industries out there. When it comes to taking care of humans, I feel it's just inherently a little different.
Right.
And so I think it's super critical that you get it as right as you can.
And how do you build cred in a health system?
You know, it really is back to basics of, you know, your follow up and follow through, right? Building relationships, building trust, those kinds of things people notice, and then people call on you. I have longevity in the organization, and I have people that I haven't talked to in 7 years, and they'll reach out with a random question just because they know I may not know the answer, but I can definitely figure it out.
Right.
So
if I gave you a magic wand to optimize or address some tech issue in the healthcare system, what would it be?
I think it is the usability and functionality of Epic at the bedside. I think that, again, the last thing you want folks to do is, you know, be messing around with your health record, and when they really should be focusing on you. And so last year we put in, or we piloted actually, DAX Copilot and that ambient technology. And I had an experience with my daughter, and we went to the doctor, and he was a test subject, and he's like, oh, hey, Brooklyn, let me put this phone next to us, and it's going to record everything. It's going to put it up in your record. And she's like, all right, you know, and they chat and things like that. And then he shows him that, you know, when it's over, and then we leave. And I'm all stoked because, you know, we're just piloting DAX, and you know, how the physicians like it. And her response was, it was very odd because he looked at me the whole time. And being able to improve healthcare, she has grown up only seeing a physician staring at the desktop, to turn around to talk to her, to go back, which the charting is great, super important, but the relationship with the patient is just super critical.
So DAX, that's the old Nuance, right? The
Correct.
Microsoft owns?
Yep,
Okay.
Microsoft owns.
So it transcribes it and then puts it in the health record.
Yep.
So what do you think that means for like natural language stuff? Like I know Oracle had their Cerner thing they just announced where it's kind of all AI input and that kind of thing. You think that's where everything will go?
I think quite a bit. I think, you know, we've talked a lot about where do you insert the human in the quality controls and things like that. So I think we'll move to that. I think you'll always need that quality control and a human at some point in time for the validation and sign off. I think there's too much regulation and legal and all of the things that'll make it completely, you know, not dependent. But
and does that natural language change the workflow, or is it kind of more of the same? Because doctors have always walked around with recorders and speaking into things.
I think it changes the workflow a little. Again, I think it makes it better, but it does dramatically change their workflow in terms of, you know, they review and sign off together with the patient versus walking around with a recorder and giving it to transcription later that night.
Right.
Right. And so now it's more real time, and they need more conversation with the patient while they're in the room.
So how do you think the virtual agent stuff will work? As you optimize ServiceNow and start looking at processes? Well,
it's all about what we give it, right? And so if we have enough, my big goal is to just minimize, you know, calls to HR, calls to the service desk, and that ability to do the self-service. I mean, we do it in everything else.
Right.
And at least for us, and I think a lot of other healthcare organizations, they just don't do a really good job with providing the content. And so, you know, again, I go back to the time back, right? I want time back for folks. I don't want to have, you know, the service desk, you know, on the phone all the time. How do you minimize the calls to that? So I think it'll make it incredibly a lot better. And yeah, just think it'll make it a lot better. Again, the last thing a nurse wants to do on a break is spend 5 minutes on the service desk, right?
Right. So the time or the returns are time and probably customer experience or patient experience.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Wang. I'm here with Mohamad Ali. He's the head of IBM Consulting. And more importantly, we're going to be talking about a very important topic called the science of consulting. So we'll start here. And of course, as everybody knows, the AI is the hottest topic that's been going on. Every client, every boardroom is trying to figure out how to use AI as the opportunity. We've seen 17 to 18% of POCs convert, and for the organizations that have succeeded in converting their POCs with AI, they've actually seen exponential gains. And what I mean by exponential, in many cases, we're talking about 10x improvement, 1/10 the cost. So there's lots of opportunities out there, but it's kind of been haphazard. And part of the reason it's all been haphazard is because people have been kind of trying it out. They haven't put a defined methodology. They haven't approved some kind of a science behind it. And so we're talking about quantitative and quantitative approaches that are successful. And so IBM Consulting is one of the major players in this AI space, especially when we're talking about where technology and business come together. And of course, I want to talk a little bit about the state of the consulting industry and how IBM Consulting is actually setting up for this challenge around AI. So Mohamad, welcome to the show. And more importantly, share with us a little bit what's going on in this dynamic market.
Yes, first of all, Ray, it's really good to see you again. And you're right, it's a pretty dynamic market, this consulting space. But before I sort of talk about what's changing, maybe I'll just explain what consulting is to our audience, just for a moment, right? Because it's sort of a broad word. And as we talk about this, you'll start seeing all the parts of consulting potentially transforming. So in consulting, we talk about three big areas, right? Advise, build, operate. And so an example would be a hospital chain comes to us and says, hey, we want to figure out a way to serve more patients. And well, one thing we could do is we could build a new scheduling approach that allows you to do that more efficiently, right? So we'll spend some time doing the advice, coming up with some ideas, and you can already see that, generative AI can help in coming up with the ideas on how to solve this problem. Then next we go and we build it. We build these apps. Again, you can see generative AI assisting us in being able to build these apps more quickly. And then we operate it. And there are also generative AI techniques to operate it much more efficiently. So Ray, as you can see right there in just that one example, the consulting business end to end is about to change dramatically. And we're pretty excited about it. We're calling it the science of consulting. It's sort of a new era of consulting.
Well, since you've taken over, you've actually rethought what consulting is about, and it's different than the traditional consulting model. So let's talk a little bit about what the science of consulting is.
Yeah. So, we are about to enter into an era, we might have already entered into it, where science and technology is coming together with skills and expertise in a way that it hasn't before, right? If you think about it, we've always had technology entering the space. There's been software, we use software, but now we're building assistants and agents, some people call them digital workers, that are working with us hand in hand at every step of our process, whether it's, coming up with the idea for the scheduling approach at the hospital, to how quickly we can write code, to other things that we do on a daily basis. It's becoming an integral part of what we do. And so science is infusing itself in consulting in a way that it just hasn't before.
Yeah, and I think some of the things that you guys are doing in this is, you've seen this big shift to generative AI, right? And it's changing consulting for quite some time, right? And it's not just the labor aspect. There's a little bit more too, right? There's new business models emerging because of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So clearly, one of the first things that people realize is that it could drive just massive efficiencies in how we do our business, how our clients do their business. But it also opens up a whole new set of opportunities for customer engagement, for customer acquisition. As I gave you the example of the hospital, we were able to use generative AI techniques to help them serve more patients, right? So it's not just cost, it's also being able to expand your customer base, grow your revenue. In terms of, what it means for the consulting industry, we are seeing, just a change in how our clients are engaging us, right? They expect generative AI to be part of the solution. As a matter of fact, 86% of the clients that we've surveyed have said that they're really no longer going to be considering service providers who don't have a generative AI capability. And as a result, one of the things that we've done is we've built a whole platform called IBM Consulting Advantage to enable our consultants to bring generative AI to our clients in a safe and predictable and organized manner.
I've been in the services business since '96, and the old way of doing this is, we were experts. We had an opinion. We had our secret silos of knowledge, right? Technology, right? And we basically, did waterfall approaches, right? Here's kind of it. Here's like a phase, right? And we basically did everything on our own and kind of excluded the clients and didn't even partner with them. What you're talking about is something really different. This is the science of consulting. It is different for what reason again?
So, you said it, right? It's no longer about having your silos of knowledge. It's really about co-creating with the clients. So, this platform that we've created allows us to capture knowledge in the form of digital workers. And now we have thousands of these digital workers that are basically encapsulated forms of knowledge that work with us. But the environment that we've created, Consulting Advantage, what we call it, has a teams concept, right? So we can actually invite our clients into the projects that we're working together, and we can collaborate with the clients, and then the clients can use our digital workers. We can use the digital workers. It's really a much tighter working relationship. It's also a much faster working relationship, right? Because for example, we have an SAP project, and in an SAP project, you have to write these documents that are called PDDs, like process design documents. Yeah. Well, these things are an iterative process. You sit down with the client, you interview them, you write it up, you say, is this the right process? Now, we can be in Consulting Advantage together, and we can actually create these documents. We can have these digital workers help us create them, and something that could take weeks can take days, right? So it's a better consulting experience where you see results faster and in some ways more predictably.
So there's an awesome matrix, right? You start with the Granite 3 language models, then you intertwine them with domain capabilities that are horizontal, like the cloud transformation, and of course, Consulting Advantage for business operations. And then at some point, right, the industry expertise comes into place. This has got to save clients time, and as well as bring all the learnings together. Do you see that accelerating projects?
Yeah, I mean, it's accelerating projects. You're able to do things faster. You're able to do them more predictably, actually. But there's actually a whole other category of value, right? It's not just about the efficiency. The efficiency is sort of the low-hanging fruit, and it's a thing that we're all pursuing on behalf of our clients. But there are things now that we're able to do that we weren't able to do before, and I'll give you another example. So here we're working with a bank, and the bank is very concerned about cybersecurity naturally, right? And so the head of IT, which manages cybersecurity as well, said to me that, listen, right now, the attacks are coming faster and faster. And as a matter of fact, the bad guys are using Gen AI to target us faster and faster.
How did they get the technology? No, I was kidding.
And so it seems like they get it before. But so he said to me, listen, if we sit still with the security platform that we have, we're actually moving backwards because these things are coming faster and faster. So, what we showed him was that, we have a set of strategic partners, and one of them happens to be Palo Alto Networks. And so what we showed him is that, we've been able to build a set of digital workers that sit on top of the Palo Alto infrastructure. And so as the signals are coming in, and they can come in faster and faster and faster, throughout the threat analysis cycle, we had these digital worker packs. And at the end of that cycle, you can imagine at the beginning of the cycle, millions of signals come in and they're automatically triaged. And by the end of it, you actually have to have somebody look at these things that look like serious matters, right? And that could take minutes. I mean, sometimes it could take hours. They have to look at these logs. And so we've built a set of digital workers that can help that SOC engineer. And through this process, we're able to reduce the triage time by 81%, right? And so you say, okay, that's an efficiency play, but it's really not, because the volume of signals that are coming in is growing. So you still need the same number of SOC engineers. They just have to do more faster in order to keep up with the threats, right? And this is something that, you know, is this solution is absolutely essential to the bank. And this is not something that we could have done even a year ago.
That is amazing. So, Mohamad, you come with an impressive background. IBM comes with an impressive background as well. Quickly tell me, why do companies want to go with, you know, a global consulting firm that sits within a global tech company?
Yeah, great question. And, you know, it's part of why I came back to IBM, right? I came back about a year ago, and in between, I worked for IBM for 14 years. I worked in the software business, and then in between, I was CEO of 2 companies. And I tell you, there's in some ways no better place to be in consulting, because there are all these toys, right? I mean, IBM's got all this technology, and it's an opportunity to bring that to bear. And so, you know, we started recasting how we think about our business, and we've been talking about it now in terms of the 4 Ps, right? At the heart of it are our people, powered by AI. And if you've got AI, you need a platform to do it in an organized way. And I'll come back to that in a minute. You need processes, and these processes can't be your old processes. They have to be new processes that understand how to leverage digital workers and AI and people and so forth. And then the 4th P are our strategic partners, like Palo Alto, like Microsoft, like Salesforce, et cetera. But let me go back to this platform, right? I mean, one of the things, you know, it's been a year, and we've been able to build out this platform. We've been able to build out, you know, thousands of digital workers. We've been able to do it extraordinarily fast, and we've been able to do it very efficiently, cost efficiently, because once you have, you know, a lot of these digital workers hitting LLMs, it starts getting pretty expensive. And I think it would be hard to do if we didn't have a technology company right inside of our overall company. And, you know, collaborating with the technology team allowed us to build out this platform so quickly. Now, of course, we're able to collaborate with our strategic partners as well, right? Whether it's Microsoft, we've integrated Copilot into this, we've integrated Firefly into this from Adobe. And so, you know, we sort of know how to do this. We know how to build these things, right? And so I think that gives us an advantage. Now we have to take advantage of that advantage, right? So.
No, that's why it's a consulting advantage. And Mohamad, I think it's really important, right? What I've noticed about AI, unfortunately, the design point is different than the internet. Right now, it is closed, it is centralized, it is more expensive, and a few players. If you do what you're doing, and we all do our job, we will make it open, decentralized, have a lot more players, and drive down the cost of AI. Right now, it's not there, but we need more players like yourselves that are doing that. So, but Mohamad, thank you so much. We're with Mohamad Ali, Head of Consulting, SVP at IBM, and also a Science Talent Search alum like myself. I believe you're 88. I'm 89.
Yeah, right?
So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, 89. Anyways, awesome.
89. 88.
We'll talk about this later. All right. Thanks for being on the show, Mohamad.
All right. Well, that is a wrap on episode 93. You come back in 2 weeks for our next episode. And we'll have Liz and Holger next for episode 94.
In the meantime, follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter at ConstellationR and at the hashtag CRTV show. Don't forget to subscribe to CRTV, Disrupt TV, Constellation Insights. Have a good week.
Have a great week, guys.
You know, why am I even on this call? You guys don't need me.
We need you.
Totally do, because you gotta flip the faces around and zoom in on people and stuff.
True.
If it's just us, we're like, all right, so you kick us off, and we'll get rolling.
All right. And 4, 2. Or they did Wayne's World. Okay. All right. So let's jump right into the news. Lot of noise coming out.
Were you supposed to say and to close out the show then?
Should we start over?
From the very top, or just you can just pick it up there, I think.
Okay.
Hannah, what do you think?
Well, I wouldn't say this is your strongest introduction, but I can probably work with it.
All right, so let's just do it from the top then.
Let's start everything.
Hannah says we suck. So there we go. Enthusiasm, damn it.
Hey, this is Martin Schneider. Wait, no, I'm going to start that over.
The name is always tricky,
It's the toughest part.
even when it's your own.
That's right.
May have to do that one again.
No, it's okay. I'll just cut out the pause.
Oh,
Um,
that long pregnant pause. Oh, and now I'm supposed to say, oh wait, I'm interviewing. So do you say that or I say that? What are we gonna do for our 100th episode?
I don't know. Well, we don't get the 100th. We get 101.
All right.
Yeah.
What do you do for the 101?
It's 101. We do really simple things because it's 101.